and welcome to today's episode of The Daily Blend. I'm your host, AC, and we are joined in studio today by author Greg Olson, author and historian. And Greg is here today to talk to us about his new book, The Amazing Life of Jeffrey Deroine.
That's right.
How are you today, Greg?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being here. And thank you guys for sending me a copy of this in advance so I could get started reading it. Very interesting story.
It's an amazing story, yeah.
Yeah. So can you just give me a little background on how this came to be of interest to you?
I do a lot of work with the Iowa tribe of Native Americans, and they have a reservation not too far from St. Joseph, Missouri in Kansas. It actually straddles the Kansas and Nebraska border. And Deroine, when he was very young, he was forced to work in the fur trade as an enslaved person. And he spent many years living with that tribe, and they liked him so much that they ended up buying his freedom from his owner so that he could be their interpreter. And so that is how I found out about him. He shows up in their paperwork, letters that they have at the National Archives, and I even found a copy of his bill of sale. So, yeah, he was kind of a side project for my work with the Iowa Indians.
I see. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, I imagine that little, off-ramp took you to this amazing story.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Jeffrey's life.
Well, yeah, the thing about it is he did so many different things, and he only lived to be 52, but he was born into slavery. His father was a French fur trader, and his uncle was his owner and also a French fur trader. So as soon as he was old enough to travel, he was forced to work in the fur trade. I didn't know this, but apparently it was quite common for African-American enslaved people to work in the fur trade. And so he worked he was born in St. Louis, so he traveled a lot from St. Louis up to around the Omaha, Nebraska area and the St. Joseph, Missouri area. That's where he worked. And then once he gained his freedom, he became a government employee, which was in itself pretty interesting, and then he was able to travel to Europe with 14 Ioways as part of an early version of a Wild West show. And because he grew up speaking French, of course, he knew English and he knew the Ioways language, he fit right in because they went to Paris and to London. And so, whenever they met dignitaries, he was their interpreter. Whenever they did a show, he was their interpreter. So he was kind of their voice. And then when after that was in 1844, 1845, he moved back to St. Joseph, Missouri, and became an early settler there. And interestingly, he maintained a relationship with his enslaver, Joseph Robidoux, who founded the city of St. Joseph and ended up buying a lot of property from him. And he became he owned a lot of property in St. Joseph, Missouri, and in Buchanan County, Missouri. So he ended up as a fairly affluent man in his later years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't hear a lot of stories like this. So it's understandable why this was one that stuck out to you.
Yeah. And the more I got into it, the more interesting it was, because once he gained his freedom, then he actually enslaved others, which I found to be very interesting. And apparently it was not all that uncommon for free people of color to enslave others. And I think partly they would do that because Deroine owned his wife. And I think maybe he did that to protect her so that he didn't have to worry about anyone else owning her and selling her and splitting them up. But he also owned a servant woman named Isabel, and then she had at least 2 children that he owned. So yeah, it was an interesting story. And that's what I really like about this story is, for me, it changed a lot of the preconceptions I have about what it was like to be an enslaved person in Missouri and a free person of color in Missouri.
Yeah, and so Jeffrey got a chance to live a life that a lot of enslaved people never ever had the option to live. He got to travel. Overseas.
Overseas, which was very rare. Yeah.
Unheard of. And then he got a chance to come back and own land, which, unheard of.
And so one of the interesting documents I was able to find was his will and his probate records in the Buchanan County Courthouse. And there you find out just how much he owned when he died. So that's how I found out about the property and things like that.
What year did he pass away?
He passed away in 1859. So just before the Civil War. He was 52 years old.
Do you know if he has any, are there any living offspring? Do you know what I mean, from his family line?
So he would have had stepchildren, and they have children.
Okay.
And then also he had a half brother named Joseph. They shared the same father, and there are a lot of family members from that side of the family. And it's interesting because you will run into a lot of Native Americans today with that last name.
Really?
Yeah, because of the French fur traders and Joseph. And yeah, a lot of the French would often marry Native people as part of their work.
Still kind of in the St. Joe area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, and so if people are listening and watching and they want to find this book, how are they able to find it?
So they can order it from the University of Missouri Press at upressmissouri.org, something like that.
.edu.
EDU. There, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and they can also just down the street here at the Missouri Historical Society in their Richard bookstore.
Okay.
Get a copy. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to make sure people know they can go online at upress.missouri.edu, and they can. Right now, your book is on the cover page.
Yeah.
But if that ever goes away, they can also just search Greg Olson.
Yeah.
And your books will come up.
It's an easy website to navigate.
Yeah, your books will come up, and they can find this one. It is a very interesting read for sure. It was really unlike any story that I had ever come across. So definitely pick this up, or you can pop in the Missouri Historical Society and grab a copy. Absolutely. Well, Greg, it was very nice to meet you. When I was reading this, I was like, I'm so interested to meet the person who wrote this book, just to see how you came across the story. I did not know the origins of how you came across Jeffrey's story.
Yeah.
Very interesting work.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Greg.
Okay.
Appreciate it.